also hate the word crunchy, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, starting small because yeah, if we're here, we still don't have a lot of, there's a lot of garden space, but not a lot of like other space. That out and just realized calendula, especially if you guys had to get any herb going, would be calendula. Alright, welcome back everyone to another video. Today, I think that's already good. I'm talking about starting like a homestead, independence, natural life living, where to start, what to do, kind of my thoughts along that. My name is Brianna, and yeah, I live here in good old Utah, which is definitely behind me. A lot greener than normally here is here in Utah. We're in a really beautiful rental, and they greenified everything. A lot of stuff here, but normally it's like dead desert. So that's kind of my climate. We're not in like the Midwest or in like East Coast of America, whatever, where it's like so pretty and green and all that. We're in the middle of like dry Utah desert, so it's that just kind of shows where to start. But there's really been like culture shift the last few years into homesteading, natural living, all that. I don't really love the word homestead in general. I didn't think much of it. Well, I kind of did, and yes and no, in different ways. Someone pointed out that it used to be the homestead term was just for people who are living completely off grid, and I kind of like actually agree with that. That's kind of homestead. Growing up, I lived on 12 acres. We had what we called a farm, farm life, not homesteading, and so that's always kind of like been on my mind too of why are we making this like fancy term when it's just a farm? We just have a farm, we have animals, all that. And we actually have like fun, like we had the basics, goats, chickens, all that. But we also had yaks and water buffalo, which I think I've mentioned that like here and there, but yeah, we had some yaks and water buffalo, which were so cute and I love them. For our climate, they didn't do super well. The yaks, it was just with them. I think just where we're at too in Utah, the soil is just not good for them, and the soil, like all the stuff, leaks into the water, and it was not good. And then the water buffalo was just super super cold, and they just did not do well either. So that's why we did not keep doing them. But our goal originally was like the water buffalo to be for milk and the yaks be for their fur, and we're gonna make also not for their hair. I'm gonna do that for them. So that's kind of what we had growing up. Goats were my thing out of my family. My parent, when we moved to the house and we did everything, we were all assigned like an animal, and mine was the milk goat. And so that became my specialty. They got us books, and we read all through those, and it really helped us like really take ownership of those animals, and learn a lot. And so that was mine. And so I milked all the goats. I did a little research. I did a lot of that. I also did a lot on around the farm too. I was my dad's right hand man in a lot of different things, and I always wanted to learn. So from a young age, I learned how to skin a chicken. I tried once when I was like a teenager to actually do the killing process. I'm not a fan of the actual slaughtering. I'm not a fan for me to do it. Other people can do it. So like we're actually needing to kill our meat chickens and do all that. Probably actually tonight. And I told my husband, I said, you cut off their head and I'll do the rest. I can't do that part. I tried it once and it just like, nah, it just didn't go over well. I'm not going to explain to that story, but it just didn't go over and it kind of like traumatized me in a little way. So after like they're dead, then I can like take care of it and I don't mind. But it's that like actual process that. But anywho, I don't really love the word homestead, and so I don't really try to use that a lot in my videos, in my reels or shorts or whatever I post. I use a lot more farming, stuff like that. I also hate the word crunchy, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I don't use the word homestead. Maybe occasionally I'll add it into like a hashtag, but for the most part, I just don't use it. But it's really like popular. You've seen, especially since 2020, and everything that went down. People are really, I feel like we're returning to our roots. And that's why I love more using the term natural, because I feel like this is our natural ways. It's how it used to be, how things used to happen. And we've gone so far off that a lot of times, um, you're judged for that, even though that was the original stuff. And we've actually gone so far from what's natural and what's regular, and that's super weird. But I love that there's that shift back to that, because growing up, we lived on this farm and it was like we were sometimes like the weird people, but you're seeing a lot more of that shift, and it's a lot more acceptable in that. But where do you start? Where do you get to do that? And like, I grew up, I knew a lot of these skills. I was taught from a young age how to do a lot of this stuff. But I'm learning. Me and my husband, we've been living in a small neighborhood for the last few years. We're now in a rental, and we have a little more space to be able to do stuff. Still pretty small, but a little more space. And so I feel like we're still beginning, and kind of seeing where you can begin, where you can go. And I think the easiest is to start a garden, because you can start a garden on a patio in just like baskets, or pots, or like the cloth bags. And I actually started doing that when I lived up in my apartment. I started a little garden out, and honestly, I was really bad at watering them, so they didn't do super, super well. Um, but put a timer on your phone, not a timer, like, I love having Google Calendars on my phone and then putting the task, and that helps me to remind me to do things. So, like, I have that on to remind me to take my supplements every day, and to read my scriptures, and to do like whatever. Like, that's how it helps keep me track. Especially being a mom now, I'll just lose and forget everything. So I think that's a really good way to kind of help keep track of that. But I would say, if you want to start to do anything homestead farm wise, start with a little garden, and starting in a pot or whatever you can do. The last few years, since we didn't really have a lot of space where you're living at, I kind of tried a little garden, and some of the flower beds, and it just didn't turn out super, super well. But my parents, they still have their property, and so we started planting stuff there, in beds, and so we started doing that. So I think that would be encouragement, is if you want to do more space too, is I know a lot of times you can find community gardens in your area that will I'll let you use it, or pay a small fee to be able to plant in that space. Or maybe you can find someone that you can rent out, or will just let you use their space too. So kind of just looking out there, maybe putting out on your local Facebook or whatever, that's used in your area. Be like, hey, I maybe you just explain your situation and just say, hey, this is what I want to do, and getting that space. So there's stuff like that. We were also able to get fresh eggs from my parents. They have chickens. And so we bought some chickens and just kept them there. Now we have our own here, so we have some meat and then egg layers. I wasn't even trying to originally get egg layers. I don't know if I explained it on this. I think I did in one of my videos, how we ended up with all of them. So yeah, we have a lot of egg layers, which we are going to eat some of the egg layers, because I'm realizing now there's quite a few roosters. So they will for sure be eaten, because I do not need a lot of roosters. Possibly leaving one, but we'll see on that. I don't know. But yeah, starting small, because yeah, if we're here, we still don't have there's a lot of garden space, but not a lot of like other space, because I've done a lot of landscaping. But we're able to get some meat rabbits, chickens, and if you want like a good starter rabbit video, or not even starter, but like a full, if you want to like keep meat rabbits and keep that whole system going. Okay, thank you. Provident Preppers have a really good rabbit video talking about that whole system, about how they do that, how to raise them, and how you can have meat year round. And so that's the end goal. Right now, we just have like a rabbit hutch, and not like in ground and like cool setup, because that's just what we're gonna work with, because that's what we can do, and it's easier to do that. And then be able to move that once we move. So meat rabbits are a really good way if you want good, quick meat. Starting out in a small area. Meat chickens are also an easier way. You're just gonna have to buy some more like stuff to do that, but you can start with those. What we're also doing is sometimes you can get into talk to people who are raising pigs or cows, and you can get in where they'll raise it, or you can just kind of buy it off them. So what we're doing is I just paid for a pig, and so they'll raise it for us, and then we'll send it to slaughter. I get to pick all the cuts I want, and then we'll get that this fall. So I'm really excited because that'll be a lot of fresh pork. I can then pick how I want it done, and I also like that too because I try to avoid the nitrates and all the other gross stuff that's sometimes thrown into those, and I can just like I like to make my own bacon and sausage and stuff like that. So I can just be like, hey, just give me these cuts. I'll do it all myself later, but it makes it easier that way. Our end goal is actually to be able to get these animals, and then my husband wants to kind of set up his own butcher spot. He studied this kind of in high school in FFA, and is like especially when we've been hunting and he did his elk, he loved it, and so he really kind of knows how to do the cuts and all that, and so that would be our end goal is for him to be able to do it that way. But right now we'll probably just send it to the slaughterhouse. I probably just to do it easier. We'll talk about it as it gets closer. But yeah, yeah, just kind of finding those little like secret snacks. What can you do in your area to do? Because yeah, it's not plausible for every single person to have your giant garden that will help you sustain for the year. To have all the animals to put everything into your freezer. So what can you start now to be able to do and I get to those end goals of what you want to do? And so a lot of times it is, I can't raise a pig very easy. Yes, I could probably do it at my parents, and we've talked about that, but then I have to go over there and feed it and water it. And, we've talked about doing the automatic stuff that will be doing that, but there's just a lot of logistics. And so this was the easier option right now. So you can look at those things instead of maybe you can't do everything right now. What can you do? And what can you have help within your community to be able to do that? I also would love a milk cow, but I be really hard right now to be milking with my schedule. I work full time. I have my babies. That would be hard because again, we can't keep it on our property, but I could do other places. So I have my milk person I go and get raw milk from. And just so you just building that community of people that you're able to do things like that. I think another thing that I think about is I have a hard time, especially with different products and being clean or not, especially for my little kids. And it's so expensive to be able to have to pay for higher quality products that don't have the chemicals in them, which is ridiculous because usually they're like way simpler. And I just don't trust a lot, and it's more pricey. So that's when I started just making my own stuff and trying to find stuff and what hills and what doesn't and all that. And it's first like a big investment, but once you start to get more herbs, first like I started buying the herbs, and then I started recognizing and realizing there was a lot of herbs right around me that why would I go buy that when it's like down the street? Like for plantain, for example. I just realized the other day we have it growing in front of our like house along the road. So like I don't want the stuff right in front of the road, but I'm gonna see if I can find some along the road that's like farther back. But what grows around you? What are these herbs that people are buying a lot or paying a lot to buy when they could just be right out where it's really easy for you to just go and pick? So kind of finding that what's around you, what are you growing on your property that could be useful as well. But getting familiar with those herbs, it kind of is a big investment at first. You start getting one, but it gets to the point where it ends up being cheaper because I bought a whole bunch of calendula years ago, and it was a pretty big bag for like $20, and I've been able to make a whole bunch of different things with it. So I bought it once, but then I haven't used it in so many recipes. So now when I need to make anything, I already have all the ingredients. I rarely need to even refill because I get it in bulk. And so starting that out and just realizing calendula, especially if you guys had to get any herb going, would be calendula in my opinion, because it's so healing. I originally made like a calendula balm. It was a nursing balm, but then I ended up using it on like any injury, a diaper rash. Anything that needs to be healed, I put it on, and it has been just amazing. It heals up so quick. It's very, very gentle. Um, like if you use a nipple cream, you're not having to pump and dump or do anything like that. So it is just a great all around, just being able to use to heal up really easy, and it's just gentle. But becoming familiar with those things, not feeling you have to go and buy all the different clean products, but what can you make and what can you learn? And honestly, when I first started this, I felt very lost because again, I grew up on a lot of this stuff, but a lot I've added upon what my parents taught me. And like my mom is very big into herbs, but it was hard until I was old enough to get into that and really start recognizing things and what are their uses. Because I think that's what's easier, starting to realize, hey, not just the name of something, but what are the uses? So also, like when I go hiking, I will take a picture of just different plants, and then when I get back into service, I'll put it into. You can get the picture of this app or Google Lens app, and then it will tell you what that thing is. And so, becoming familiar with what's around you, what are their uses? So, especially too, if you're on a hike or out in nature and something happens, what can you use around you to help heal? And it just becomes that much better of a skill. So that's why I focus on herbs a lot, and I love finding the stuff and trying to save what I can when I can, just because I get a lot more familiar. I know what things can help, what can't, what not to touch, and all that. So there's my little blurb. But yeah, I think just starting out, if you are just starting out on your farming homestead, um, on your little farming journey, start out small. Start with what you can, and don't feel like you can't. I don't feel like you're behind, because everyone has a starting point. And yeah, you may be behind to some other people, but you're gonna be ahead of others. And eventually you'll be able to teach your skills to other people. So just keep learning, keep adding upon. If you send something cool online, then learn to do that. And for me, when I try something new, it kind of is very intimidating, and I'll put it off for weeks or months or even years sometimes. And then once I get the hang of it, then it's easy to do. So that's just my little tips. Hopefully, this was helpful to y'all. If it was, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with other people that you think would this would find helpful and would like to kind of start in this kind of journey. But hopefully, you guys are doing great. Let me know below, what is your like end goal for your farm, garden, whatever your goals are. Tell me down below, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a great day, great night. God bless.